don't ask it like you would ask Google, like in a search. This is not a search engine. So ask it in terms of like giving it the full context of what it is that you're trying to learn about.
Let's talk about AI and how it can be used in both your personal and professional life. Our guest today is a technology executive with massive experience, and she is driving the education and the awareness around AI, especially for women and minorities, and how to embrace it and how to use it. We're going to tackle some of the biggest questions around AI. What are the concerns? How do you use it? What's that first step to take when you start using it? Join the conversation today with me and Grace Francisco as we tackle how to get shit done with AI. Grace Francisco, welcome to the GSD Factor podcast.
Thank you. I'm really happy to be here, Misha.
I'm so excited for us to have a conversation around AI. As two women in tech, this is definitely something near and dear to our hearts. But before we dive in, let our listeners hear a little bit about your story really quick.
Oh, really quick. That's a tough one. I've been in tech for a really long time. I'll try to make it short. Let's see. I've had a very long career in tech. 20 plus years is actually longer than that, but I don't want to date myself too much. I started my career as an engineer. I ended up becoming what's called a developer evangelist at Microsoft for a while, and then spent much of that time, the 8 years I was there, explaining what a developer evangelist was versus a Bible evangelist when I was running around the world, like not the religious one, the tech one. And then took that practice of developer relations to places like Intuit and Atlassian, Roblox, MongoDB, and built teams there and organizations and built a discipline around developer relations in these organizations. So I've been very lucky. I built a brand around that, and people have come to me knowing that I represent really great tools. I've been very fortunate that way. And that's how I had sort of this accidental like side thing, being an angel investor in developer tools and platforms as well, because these are sort of like inbound opportunities for me to be a strategic angel. And so these days I'm in the Philly area doing good, what I like to call good trouble. I'm chief troublemaker in the Philly area. A lot of my friends here know this about me. And just trying to like connect the dots and figure out what we need here to help startups be successful in this area.
And you're helping them get shit done, which we absolutely love.
We love GSD and they love GSD, and I'm just helping them along their journey.
Amazing. So we're going to dive into this conversation around AI. AI is here to stay. It's something that you and I have talked about extensively. So talk to us about, I think AI for some people have jumped right in. Others have been a little more hesitant. So let's just dive right into what is one of those main concerns that you have seen for those that are trying to understand AI. Is it really here? Is it not here? Do we need to get into it? Do we need to learn it, understand it, and be a part of it? What's that one concern? What's that top concern that you're seeing in the space?
Well, so it's interesting, sort of the fear and anxieties that people have about AI, because actually AI has been here for a long time. It's been in your phones, right? It's been in Alexa. It's been a lot of things all around you. And the only reason why it's really a prominent piece of conversation now is because of OpenAI and ChatGPT just really taking off. And taking off in a way where it wasn't just us business and tech people using it, consumers, students, like everyday people were suddenly using it. So you suddenly had everyone under the sun, even your mom, your grandma, everyone around you talking about this ChatGPT thing and what they were doing to experiment with it or not, because they were afraid of it. And I do think that the concern, just a general concern, for me, let's start with my concern about what women interacting with generative AI or AI products just at large, which is that many women, and there's Harvard did a report on this, they looked at 18 global studies across the globe, across industries, and women generally were 18 points behind in adoption of AI. And when we think about, you know about these numbers, Misha, in terms of women in tech,
Mhm.
and women and business in general, we already have a huge wage gap, no matter what your profession is. We are going to make it that much worse if we don't hop on this train. AI is here to stay, and it is an enabler in your work productivity and in innovation and planning and so many things. And if you don't lean into it, you're going to get left behind really quickly because it's moving that fast. It's rapid. So
Mm.
my biggest concern, and I think about why I'm here with you and I go out and talk, is because I want women to like really embrace it. Yes, we know that the training is terrible in terms of like the bias that's in there. But you know what? That ain't gonna fix itself. It's
Mm.
just not. And guess what? These tools all have some level of feedback that you can provide. When you see that outcome and you go, that's bias, that doesn't represent me, tell it. You got to tell it so that the training data gets better. I was just at Launchpad Philly where, I had a lovely crew of diverse people. And I told them, like, you guys need to be in this, giving it feedback. Don't be afraid of using it because, yes, we all know there's going to be a level of bias. The only way that's going to fix itself is that people are involved on the product side, absolutely. But you, as users, got to give it feedback. Give it strong feedback every single time.
I think that's so important. And I think that leans into the idea, the encouragement here of you've just got to get into it and
Mm.
just test it and try it. I think I recently heard someone speak and talking about how as children it was drilled into us to be inquisitive and be curious and asking lots of questions and just trying things, and that was instilled in us at young ages all the way through our education years. But then when we were adults, we were told not to be inquisitive and just do things and so on and so forth. And I think what I am seeing is that AI is actually causing us to become childlike again and to become inquisitive and to be curious again. So let's talk. I would love to hear your thoughts on that and how do we play in the sandbox again, but with an AI?
That is just so spot on, which is that you do have to like tap back into that 5-year-old version of yourself and that wonder and excitement of all the new things that you're learning about, all the things around you. Let's put aside this like dystopian view of what could happen with AI and the bots taking over. Like, we need to like encourage and embrace the fact that we, the human beings, if we can put on the positive hat of our 5-year-old selves and embrace that opportunity of what AI can provide us in a positive way and how we
Yes.
can influence that outcome to be a positive thing, then that is the thing that is a potential strength. If we over rotate and go, oh, it's gonna like take down the world, it's gonna be evil and bad, it's gonna be like the Terminator movies, then it's kind of like when we talk about achieving your goals, you have to be able to really visualize what it is. And what we should be visualizing is the positive outcomes that AI can actually provide. Yes, we should also put guardrails. We should be
Mhm.
aware of like the potential risks and concerns. But let's move forward in a constructive way because there is so much there's so much like really positive things that can come out of this, from like healthcare, cancer, identifying, like there was a technology that someone's talking about where they're using generative AI to identify breast cancer, right? And mammograms and the screenings. Because right now it's visually done, but that could still be missed. Now, there is a great example again of bias where it was more accurate for women who were Caucasian.
Mm.
And so the good news, bad news is it would often report inaccurately from women of color and Southeast Asian women that you had cancer when you didn't, which of course causes you to be on an emotional roller coaster if you're told you might have cancer and then they have to
Right.
go and do the biopsy. That's all very traumatic. But the reverse of that would be worse, right?
Yes.
It's you don't have cancer. In fact, there is. So that isn't the situation. But still, those are things that in the training data we have to be mindful of is making sure that as we are building this, that the doctors and technicians involved are at least transparent about that, which is, hey, we're going to run this. However, right now it is optimized for this demographic audience, just so you are aware. Right. So
Yes.
that level of transparency that we need to provide in terms of the data, how it's trained, what it's optimized for is very important. And the thing for a lot of people to know, especially like the general audiences who are not in our tech bubble, who don't know about this, ChatGPT is using general LLM, so it's trained across very general things. And there are other platforms where the training data is very specific to financial data or
Mhm.
healthcare data. And that's the right thing to do, because you don't want it training off of something from a Reddit forum, as an example, that will then tell you that you have cancer. You don't want that. And so, being mindful and understanding where is that data coming from? How is that being built? How is it training is very important as you look at different solutions in your work and in your just home life, as you're doing consumer research on a girls' weekend away with your poker pals who
I'm
want to go.
so glad you brought this. I'm so glad you brought this up. So that's a perfect pivot into what are some practical use cases of how I can use AI in my day to day. So share with our listeners about your planning trip.
Yes, well, so I do this monthly women playing poker, Texas Hold'em style poker. And I love it, and they're my friends that come over. They're badasses, really. And we all started as newbies, and so everyone's been ramping up the skill set. And so we set out this goal that in the summertime we would do a fun girls' weekend away in Atlantic City, and play and take over a table. So we've all gotten comfortable to the point where, like, okay, we can do this. We're going to take over a table, and I'm a planner, so I thought, okay, well, we need to get ahead of the game. It gets really busy and full, and the rates are going to go up. I'm thinking like timeline. Oh, we better start like booking the hotel. What hotel do we want to book at? So I decided to feed Chat GPT like what we wanted to do, and we had been talking in our last game about wanting like themes for the evenings. The 2 nights we're going to be there, so we were going to do like very classy, fancy nights, a classy night, and then the other night we're going to do trashy night. We're going to wear like those silly shirts where like, the shirt has like a woman in like a bikini set or something like that, like very trashy looking clothes. So we're going to do classy and trashy. So I fed ChatGPT, hey, I'm going to go to Atlantic City for a weekend. What would you recommend for an itinerary for women that are powerful executive women types and that want to have a really fun time? And we have 2 themes and nights. And it built out the whole itinerary end to end. Restaurants were on there. It gave it to me by breakdown, like time frames, and if we want to do like spa time, all of these options were given to me, so I didn't have to go like figure it all out separately. It was great. And I sent it to my poker friends were like, oh my God, this is amazing. How much time did you spend on this? And I was like, 5 minutes.
Mhm.
But if I'd done that separately, it probably would have taken me hours of research. So that was one like huge efficiency thing that I got right out the gate where, now we've got an itinerary, we've got a plan. It may not be exactly what is on there, but we have options that are listed on there. We can pick and choose what works for us. And I just thought it was lovely. And I used emojis for bullets because I like that, as you can see in my LinkedIn post. So it made it fun.
What I love about this practical use case is that there's still the human component. There's still you're asking it to enhance your productivity. You're asking it to get you what I'll say 80% of the way there.
Right.
And then the 20% is you deciding and adding that human piece to it. But just like when computers came out, when the internet came out, it was this idea of how do you use it with intention? How do you use it with integrity? And how do you use it to enhance you, not to replace you? But how do you use AI in this intentional way to augment and enhance and be able to get through a lot of those more mundane things so that you can really be leveraging and using your brain power, your expertise to get more shit done. And I think that
Exactly.
that's such an important way to consider AI and think about AI is it's not here to replace us. It's here as a tool, and it's here to come alongside us to help us get shit done a little faster and a little more efficiently.
Absolutely. And, I think with every technology stage that we've had, I mean, with computers, with the internet, with cloud, there's been some level of fear factor that happens with every advent of new technology that comes in, every disruptive set of technologies. And, I would say that if you can look at the positive pieces, again, bringing your 5-year-old version of yourself and the wonder and the openness of the opportunity, there's so much that you can then take on. And I actually, the thing that this reminds me of is when I've been in companies and there's organizational change, there's just change. People are afraid of change in general, right?
Yes.
That's human nature. I've always said to my colleagues and people that I mentor, I know it's scary. I know that it feels uncomfortable, but embrace the change for what it is, because guess what? It opens up other doors of opportunities if you're willing to ride it out and open your eyes and see what lays ahead. If you can just set aside the fear for a little bit and look ahead of you and understand what the opportunity is, those are the people that can then step in through the door and see all the massive opportunities ahead of them.
Oh, so well said. So let's talk about, I love tips and tricks. So, what is your number one tip when you are starting to, in this childlike manner, think about starting to use AI and testing it out and seeing how it can help you in your daily life?
Well, and exactly what you just said. Just take, there are many tools. There's Gemini, there's ChatGPT, there's Notebook LM, many, many options. And maybe you start with pick 3 and then, like you say, test it out. Put in, certain, challenges. And the key with generative AI is don't ask it like you would ask Google, like in a search. This is not a search engine. So ask it in terms of like giving it the full context of what it is that you're trying to learn about. Hey, act as an economist and help me understand what the gaps and opportunities are in the Philadelphia ecosystem when it comes to software startups and what they need to be successful. That's an example. Like full context. You can have multiple paragraphs, in fact. And some people put multiple paragraphs in context. They'll put a template, like, I want it laid out this way, or I want it to be fun. I'll often tell it, like, give it to me fun with fun emojis, be enthusiastic, but not too crazy. So you can really teach it like what it is that you want. And we'll actually learn from prompt to prompt your style of writing, your style of like what you want to see in terms of the output. So that part is like, it's important to know as you're experimenting.
So
So if you want to give it
being very clear and
yeah,
very
be very clear.
specific with prompts. And
Experiment.
I love your tip of it's not Google. You're not talking to it like Google. It's more like talking to like an assistant or a researcher or someone that says, "Hey, I'm looking for X, Y, and Z in this area. What does that look like?"
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. And I think just in general, my number one tip, especially for women, is get in there, dig in. You don't need to be certified. So this is what I'm saying with some women colleagues. They're asking about training and certification. Like, don't wait for that. Yes, go if that's what you want, go for it. But don't wait for that to try it. Start with just daily, like spend like 5-10 minutes trying something out, whether it's on the personal or the work front. On the work front, just know what your work policies are in terms of using tools. Because some companies do have very specific guidelines or in some cases bans, unfortunately. So just understand what it is. And, whether you're allowed to use it at work or not, spend some time learning it anyway. Don't use work things in there, obviously, but, on the personal basis, train yourself, like understand what the tools can do for you on a personal level. I think that's still very important, experimenting, like, for like the weekend trip as an example, any travel that you're doing, recipes. You can go in there and say, hey, these are the things that I have in my fridge right now. What can I make out of this? That's another thing that I've done. I haven't necessarily done the recipe for that because I usually just do it off the top of my head and I'll pull something out of my fridge and just make something. But you can actually get it to creatively, make something for you as a recipe. And there are just so many other things that you can do. And the important thing is to not be afraid, to not wait for the tool to be perfect or for you to be perfect. Just get in there and spend a few minutes a day, learning how to use it and being just comfortable with it.
And I think what you just said is, as women, right, we always think that we have to be perfect. We always think that we have to have it all together, have to have all the answers. And we've seen this in statistics around applying for jobs, right? We
Mhm.
think that we have to align 90 to 95% on a job description before we apply. And
But our male colleagues,
our
it's
male
what is it,
colleagues,
30%?
correct, 30%, they will apply. And, that's something I talk to my mentees about all the time is if you are looking at a job and you think you align on 30 to 35%, go for it. And I think it's the same concept with AI. It's saying just get in there, try it out. There's no wrong answer. There's no slap on the wrist. It's just trying it and getting comfortable with it. And I think that you start to explore what are those uses both personally but also professionally, and how can you become just a little more efficient? And how can you become just a little more productive? Because, if there's something that can get you 80% of the way there, oh, imagine all the time now that I can pivot and use my human expertise, my brain, what I'm doing. I can now focus and really move those things along and get that shit done versus having to do a lot of those smaller mundane tasks and some of that research piece of it.
So, safety first. I will say this is
Yes.
like number one safety thing. Understand your data and privacy options in every single tool, and never ever ever put anything confidential in there, personally or professionally. So, no social security numbers, don't put your home address in there. Don't put like a really specific information about who you are. And check what it is training off of and turn it off if you don't want any training off of your prompts. You can't
Yep.
do that even in ChatGPT. And then as you see update messages for any tools, and this actually applies even to LinkedIn. LinkedIn started like quietly training off of premium members' chat messages last fall and didn't tell people this. It's very important when you see updates to your accounts that you understand like what are they updating, and if they're adding anything in there about like training off your data, they should be also providing a way for you to opt out of that. I mean, in an ideal world, the default should always be privacy, but unfortunately, we're dealing with a world where many vendors expect permissiveness. So, just something for everyone to always be thinking about is their right to privacy, and how to think about that, and what things they need to be looking for in the tools.
Amazing. Thank you for all of these fantastic conversations. I think, from being clear and specific with prompts to be sure that you're protecting yourself from a privacy perspective and that you do have options. You can turn things off, right? And on and off as you need to. And I think that just using it and I think just getting into it, it's here to stay. It's not going anywhere. And I think that as women, this is a chance for us to step up and get in there and really use our voices in this way.
Oh, absolutely. So, feedback, get the tools to feedback, get in there and learn it. Start a peer mentoring circle with other women to keep yourself accountable for that so you can share learnings and best practices. I was in a circle of people who were just sharing like how we were using some of these tools, and I had this aha moment. I was like, oh my God, someone was talking about how he was using Notebook LM. What he was doing was he was recording sessions he was having with different contractors that were like bidding on some work on his home, and they were doing contractor speak. So he recorded the discussions, then fed it into Notebook LM, had it translate the contractor speak for him, and then helped him analyze the quotes afterwards, right? So that he wasn't like pulling his hair out going, what does this mean? What is it like? Notebook LM helped him to synthesize that. And then he mentioned, oh, and by the way, it took off for a while. It was trending online because people were using Notebook LM to create these podcasts. I'm like, what do you mean podcasts? Like you can feed it content. It will auto-generate artificial speakers, AI speakers who actually sound like human beings. And I thought, that's weird. I'm going to go try that out just to see what that's like. And I took some of the content that I was posting on LinkedIn, and it actually created a very entertaining podcast with these two artificial speakers sounding like a real man or real woman. They had their own opinions in this podcast about what I was doing, and it was hilarious. It was so entertaining, and I thought, oh my god, we've come a long way. So if you were someone who creates content, here's yet another opportunity. Like, create podcasts. Because you're already investing all the time creating the content, you might as well
Right.
think about like other avenues for you to repurpose that content in a really entertaining way.
Yes. But listeners, you are listening to the true and the authentic Grace and Misha here today.
We're real. We're real. Yeah.
We are. Grace, thank you so much for taking us on this AI mini journey. I think that you are immersed in this, being a woman in tech, a woman in AI, also a female founder, but then also a woman, an angel investor, and so appreciate you just sharing your journey and your story and just your perspective. And thank you to our listeners for joining us today. And don't forget to keep getting shit done. Have a good one. Thank you for listening to the GSD Factor podcast. I'm your host, Misha Blaymeyer-Farish. Be sure to connect with me on LinkedIn or Instagram, as I love connecting with our listeners to hear how you are getting shit done in your personal and professional life. Be sure to visit our website at gsdfactor.com, where you can take a persona assessment that's going to help you figure out what type of GSDer you are. There's also a ton of resources and tools for both yourself and your tiny humans in your life. We appreciate you rating and subscribing our podcast episode today. And don't forget to get shit done.